I woke up bald on the morning of my 10th wedding anniversary. Not with a bad haircut, not with a patch missing. Bald. On my pillow, beside my head, was a folded piece of hotel stationery in my husband's handwriting. Now you look just as ridiculous as the person you really are. What Ethan didn't know was that, by noon, I was supposed to transfer $15 million into the investment company he said would secure our future. That night, while our friends and family raised their glasses to celebrate 10 years of marriage, I picked up the microphone. And I told them exactly what kind of man they were applauding. Part 1. The Anniversary Gift. The first thing I felt was cold. Not the ordinary kind that slips under the blankets in winter, but a strange, intimate cold against the top of my head. I reached up, still half asleep, expecting to find my hair tangled across my face. My palm touched skin. For one suspended second, my mind refused to understand what my hand was telling it. Then I sat up. The bedroom was gray with early light. The clock read 6:12. Ethan's side of the bed was empty, and the champagne bottle from the night before sat on the dresser, its ice melted into cloudy water. I touched my head again. Smooth in some places, rough in others. I stumbled into the bathroom and turned on every light. The woman in the mirror did not look like me. My dark brown hair, the hair I had worn past my shoulders since college, was gone. Uneven strips of stubble crossed my scalp. There were 2 small cuts near my right ear and a raw patch at the base of my neck. A few strands clung to the collar of my sleep shirt. I gripped the counter so hard my fingers hurt. "No," I whispered. The word sounded childish in the empty room. I opened the trash can. Ethan's electric clippers were inside, tangled in a wad of paper towels. Brown hair filled the teeth of the guard. My hair. I ran back into the bedroom, and that was when I saw the note. It lay neatly centered on my pillow, folded once. "Now you look just as ridiculous as the person you really are." I read it 3 times. My first reaction was not rage, it was confusion, the kind that comes when cruelty is so deliberate your mind keeps searching for a less terrible explanation. Maybe Ethan had been drunk. Maybe this was some bizarre prank. Then I remembered the champagne. He had opened it just after 10, saying we should start celebrating early. I had only finished 1 glass, maybe part of a second, yet by 11 I could barely keep my eyes open. Ethan had laughed when I said I felt strange. "Big day tomorrow," he had told me, guiding me toward the bedroom. "You're probably just anxious." My stomach turned. I grabbed my phone and called him. He let it ring until voicemail. I called again. This time a text appeared. "Don't be dramatic. It was a joke. You'll understand tonight." I stared at the screen until the letters blurred. A joke. 10 years earlier, Ethan had promised to protect my dignity. Now he had violated me while I was unconscious and expected me to attend our party as if nothing had happened. My hands began to shake. I wanted to shower. I wanted to scrub the sticky champagne smell from my skin, vacuum every strand of hair from the carpet, and put on a hat before anyone could see me. Instead, I called Rachel Kim. Rachel and I had met in graduate school. She was now an estate attorney in downtown Chicago, and the one person who knew every detail of my inheritance. She answered on the second ring. "Claire?" I tried to speak, but no sound came out. Her voice changed immediately. "What happened?" He shaved my head. There was a pause. "Who?" "Ethan?" Another pause, shorter this time. "Are you safe right now?" The question cracked something open in me. I sat on the edge of the bed and covered my mouth. "He's gone," I said. "There's a note. I think he put something in my drink." Rachel did not gasp. She did not tell me to calm down. "Listen carefully," she said. "Do not shower. Do not clean anything. Put the note in a plastic sleeve if you have one. Take pictures of your scalp, the clippers, the bottle, the glasses, everything. Then call 911 or let me call for you." "I can't call the police over a haircut." "Claire, this is not a haircut." Her voice was firm but gentle. "If he drugged you and altered your body while you were unconscious, that is assault." I looked at the note again. For years, Ethan had trained me to minimize him. A cruel remark was sarcasm. A slammed cabinet was stress. A hand gripping my wrist too tightly was frustration. Every injury came with an explanation, and every explanation ended with me apologizing for making it worse. "I'm supposed to sign the transfer today," I said. "I know." $15 million. "I know that too, and you are not signing anything." At 7:05, 2 Naperville police officers stood in my bedroom while I sat wrapped in a robe. Officer Perez photographed the note and collected the champagne glasses. Her partner bagged the clippers. "Did your husband have permission to shave your head?" Officer Perez asked. "No." "Do you remember him doing it?" "No." "Do you take any prescription sleep medication?" "No." She nodded and wrote something down. An ambulance took me to Edward Hospital. Rachel met me in the emergency department wearing navy slacks, a camel coat, and no makeup. She hugged me carefully as if I might break. A nurse named Denise cleaned the cuts near my ear and drew blood for a toxicology screen. When I apologized for crying, she handed me a tissue. "Someone humiliating you while you're unconscious isn't a joke," she said. "Don't let anybody rename it for you." Those words stayed with me. While we waited, Rachel opened her laptop and logged into the trust portal. The $15 million my grandmother had left me was still there, untouched. I should have felt relief. Instead, an alert flashed across the screen. There had been an attempted login at 6:31 that morning. The verification code had been sent to an old phone number still listed as my backup contact, the phone Ethan kept in his home office. Rachel turned the screen toward me. "He didn't do this because he thought you'd cancel the transfer," she said quietly. "He did it because he thought you'd be too broken to notice what else he was doing." I looked at my reflection in the dark edge of the laptop screen. My scalp was exposed. My face was swollen from crying. But for the first time in years, I could see Ethan clearly. Rachel closed the laptop and looked at me across the hospital waiting room. "Do you still have access to the shared tablet at home?" I nodded. "Good. Ethan probably assumes you're too embarrassed to think clearly. That gives us a window." The word embarrassed landed harder than I expected. I was embarrassed. Not because of what I had done, but because I could already imagine the questions. Why had I stayed? Why had I trusted him? How could I not have seen what kind of man I married? People often ask those questions as if cruelty arrives wearing a name tag. It doesn't. It arrives slowly. It starts with a joke at your expense, then a criticism disguised as concern. One day you realize you have spent years adjusting yourself around another person's moods. Rachel touched my hand. "This is not your shame, Claire." I looked away before I started crying again. The toxicology results would take time, but the emergency physician documented my injuries and recommended that I remain somewhere Ethan could not access. I called my mother and told her I had slipped in the bathroom. The lie lasted 12 seconds. "Claire," she said, "I'm your mother. Try again." I closed my eyes. Ethan shaved my head while I was unconscious. Silence filled the line. Then she asked, "Where are you?" "Edward Hospital." "I'm coming." "Mom, Rachel is here." I did not ask whether Rachel was there. That was Margaret Hale, 67 years old, 5'4", retired elementary school principal, and incapable of treating urgency as a group discussion. She arrived wearing jeans, orthopedic sneakers, and the blue raincoat she had owned since the Clinton administration. The moment she saw me, she stopped walking. Her face changed. Not pity, not shock. Grief. She crossed the room and held my cheeks between her hands. "Oh, sweetheart." That nearly destroyed me. "I should have listened to you," I whispered. "No," her voice sharpened. "We are not beginning there." Rachel explained the attempted account access and the need to retrieve documents from the house before Ethan realized we knew. Officer Perez arranged for an officer to accompany us. By 10:30, I was standing in my own kitchen with a knitted cap pulled low over my head, looking at the remains of breakfast Ethan had left behind. Coffee grounds in the sink, half a bagel on a plate, The ordinary evidence of a man who had committed an act of calculated cruelty and still remembered to eat. The shared tablet was on the charging dock near the pantry. I entered the passcode. Ethan and I had used it for recipes, streaming, bills, and travel plans. His email account was still connected. Rachel stood beside me while I searched for Bennett Legacy Partners. Dozens of messages appeared. At first, they looked legitimate. Investment projections, tax summaries, legal drafts. Ethan had spent months building a polished story around the company he wanted me to fund. He said it would be ours. A family investment office, he called it. Something that would preserve my grandmother's legacy while giving Ethan the opportunity to manage growth. Rachel opened the operating agreement. Her expression tightened. What? You're listed as the primary capital contributor, she said, scrolling, but not as the managing member. I thought Ethan and I had equal control. You don't. She turned the tablet toward me. The voting rights belonged to a holding company registered in Delaware. That company was managed by another entity called VHC Development Group. I stared at the initials. Vanessa Harper Cole. Rachel nodded. Vanessa had worked with Ethan for 4 years. She was his director of business development, the woman whose name appeared in every third story he told about work. Vanessa landed the account. Vanessa fixed the presentation. Vanessa understood how much pressure he was under. I had met her at Christmas parties and client dinners. She always hugged me with one arm while keeping the other hand wrapped around her phone. Rachel searched the Delaware corporate registry. VHC Development Group had been created 7 months earlier, 2 weeks after my grandmother's estate entered probate. They planned this, I said. Rachel did not answer immediately. Yes. We found a presentation Ethan had shown me in March. The version he sent to me described conservative real estate investments, municipal bonds, and low-risk index funds. The version attached to an email between Ethan and Vanessa was different. In that one, the inheritance would cover outstanding debts at Ethan's consulting firm, purchase a vacation property outside Scottsdale, and invest nearly $4 million in a boutique hotel project owned by Vanessa's brother. My name appeared only under one heading, Source of Capital. I sat down at the kitchen table. He told me the Arizona property was for us. Rachel continued reading. It's titled to the holding company. So Vanessa would own it. Vanessa would control it. The difference felt academic. My mother moved quietly around the kitchen, filling the kettle, rinsing cups, doing the practical things people do when the emotional world becomes unbearable. Then Rachel froze. What is it? She opened an email dated 3 weeks earlier. It was from Ethan to Vanessa. Once she signs, she can't pull it back without exposing herself to the tax consequences. She'll panic before she fights. Vanessa's reply came 6 minutes later. After the anniversary, we won't have to pretend anymore. For a moment, I heard nothing. Not the kettle, not the officer moving near the front door, not my mother's soft breathing. I read the exchange again. After the anniversary. Not someday, not eventually. They had chosen a date. Ethan had planned the celebration, invited our friends, booked the ballroom at the country club, and ordered a cake modeled after the one from our wedding, all while preparing to leave me. I stood so quickly the chair scraped across the floor. I'm canceling the party. Rachel caught my wrist gently. Not yet. You expect me to stand beside him tonight? I expect you to decide what helps you most, not what gives him warning. I paced toward the window. He drugged me. He shaved my head. He tried to access the account. And if he realizes we found the emails, he may erase records, move business assets, or destroy evidence. My mother placed a cup of tea in front of me. Sit down, Claire. I can't sit. Then hold the cup. I did. The heat steadied my hands. Rachel laid out the next steps. She would contact the bank's fraud department, suspend all pending transfer instructions, preserve the trust assets, and file an emergency divorce petition with a request to prevent Ethan from dissipating marital property. A forensic accountant would begin reviewing his business records. I would not confront him. Not yet. My mother listened without interrupting. When Rachel finished, she looked at me. "You don't have to hurt him back," she said. "He deserves to be hurt." "Maybe he does, but that is not your job." Her voice remained calm. "Your job is to stop protecting him from the consequences of what he chose." I looked at the tablet again. There were more messages, more lies. One included a travel itinerary. 2 one-way business class tickets from Chicago to Lisbon, departing 3 days after our anniversary. Passenger 1, Ethan Bennett. Passenger 2, Vanessa Cole. No return date. No ticket for me. I stared at the screen until the last part of my marriage stopped feeling like a marriage at all. It had been an exit strategy, and I had been expected to finance it. By noon, Rachel had frozen every pending transfer, notified the trust administrator, and arranged for a forensic accountant to begin reviewing Ethan's company records. The divorce petition was being prepared, but it would not be filed until late afternoon, close enough to the party that Ethan would have no time to react. That left one problem. I still had to go home and face him. My mother hated the idea. "He could be dangerous," she said as we stood in Rachel's office overlooking downtown Chicago. "He thinks he already won," Rachel replied. "That makes him predictable." "Predictable men can still be dangerous." Rachel nodded. "Which is why Claire won't be alone." A plainclothes investigator named Daniel would wait nearby, and the police already had my report. Rachel had also checked Illinois recording laws. Because Illinois generally requires consent in situations where there is a reasonable expectation of privacy, she warned me not to rely on a secret recording as our primary evidence. Instead, I kept my phone visible on the kitchen counter and told Ethan I wanted to record our conversation because I was too upset to remember everything clearly. Rachel expected him to refuse. He didn't. That told me how confident he was. I returned to Naperville shortly after 2. Ethan's black SUV was in the driveway, freshly washed for the party. Through the front window, I could see him standing in the living room, adjusting his cufflinks. He looked calm. That was the hardest part. He had drugged me, shaved my head, tried to access my inheritance, and then dressed for our anniversary celebration as though cruelty were simply another item he had checked off his morning schedule. When I opened the door, he turned. His eyes went directly to the knitted cap covering my scalp. "There you are," he said. "I've been calling." "No, you haven't." He glanced at his phone as if the device might defend him. "I've been busy." I set my purse on the kitchen counter and placed my phone beside it. "I'm recording this conversation." His eyebrows lifted. "That's dramatic." "I need to remember what you say." He stared at me for a second, then gave a small, indulgent laugh. "Fine, record it." He walked closer and lowered his voice. "Claire, I know you're upset. You shaved my head. We were drinking. I was unconscious. You passed out. There's a difference." The old version of me would have argued over the wording. I would have tried to make him admit the truth, believing that if I could force him to acknowledge what he had done, then reality would become stable again. Instead, I watched him. He had always been most persuasive when he was afraid of losing control. His voice softened, his shoulders relaxed, and his face arranged itself into concern. "I made a stupid decision," he said. "A terrible joke. I was angry." "About what?" "You've been distant for months." "I've been handling my grandmother's estate." "Exactly. Everything has been about that money." He moved closer. "I started to feel like you didn't need me anymore." There it was. Not remorse, not shame. Just a new way to make his violence my responsibility. "So you shaved my head because you felt insecure?" He sighed. "I'm saying we both contributed to the situation." I almost laughed. For years, Ethan had used the word both as a weapon. If he insulted me, we had both communicated poorly. If he disappeared overnight, we had both stopped prioritizing the marriage. If I discovered a lie, we had both created an environment where honesty felt difficult. He could turn any act of betrayal into a shared failure. I went to the hospital, I said. His expression shifted for half a second. Then the concern returned. You went to the hospital over this? They took blood. His jaw tightened. Claire, you had champagne. Of course they'll find alcohol. And if they find something else? He looked toward the hallway. I don't know what you think happened. Vanessa came here last night. He turned back too quickly. Who told you that? The doorbell camera. His face went still. Then he smiled. She dropped off materials for tonight, that's all. At midnight? We've been working on the presentation. For the investment company? Yes. The company she controls? That landed. Not visibly, not enough for anyone else to notice, but I saw it in the way his eyes narrowed. You've been talking to Rachel. I reviewed the documents. You don't understand corporate structure. I understand that I provide $15 million and Vanessa controls the voting rights. That's temporary. You never told me. Because you panic over details. He stepped closer, lowering his voice again. This is exactly why I handle these things. You get emotional, then you make decisions you don't understand. I touched the edge of the cap. His eyes followed my hand. You shaved my head while I was unconscious, and you're calling me emotional. He looked away. For the first time, his performance slipped. It wasn't supposed to become this. What was it supposed to become? A wake-up call. For me? For both of us. I let the silence stretch. Then I said, I'm still going to sign. His entire body changed. The tension disappeared from his shoulders, his mouth softened, and he reached for my hand. That's the right decision. I forced myself not to pull away. I don't want to destroy what we built. You won't. He squeezed my fingers. Tonight can still be beautiful. We'll tell everyone about Bennett Legacy Partners. Then tomorrow we start fresh. Tomorrow. The day before his flight to Lisbon. I looked into his eyes and saw no hesitation there. He truly believed I would hand him my grandmother's fortune after he humiliated me, because he had spent 10 years teaching me that keeping the peace was more important than protecting myself. I need to get dressed, I said. His gaze dropped to the cap. You're not wearing that, are you? My throat tightened. What would you prefer? There's a wig in the guest room. I stared at him. You bought me a wig? He shrugged. I knew you might overreact. The cruelty of it was almost elegant. He had planned the humiliation and the concealment. He wanted to wound me, then control how the wound appeared in public. Upstairs, a long blonde wig waited in a box beside the dress he had selected for me, a pale pink gown with a high neckline and pearl buttons. I left both where they were. Instead, I chose a white tailored suit, the one I had bought for a foundation luncheon the previous spring. I applied simple makeup, fastened my grandmother's sapphire earrings, and wrapped a silk scarf around my head. When I came downstairs, Ethan frowned. You look like you're going to a business meeting. In a way, I am. At the country club, guests were already arriving beneath the chandeliers. Waiters carried champagne, a jazz trio played near the windows, and photographs from our marriage rotated across a large screen. In the restroom, I found Vanessa touching up her lipstick. She saw me in the mirror and smiled. Oh, Claire, Ethan told me you had a difficult morning. I removed the scarf. Her smile froze. Then she recovered. Some women know when a marriage has run its course, she said quietly. Others need to be embarrassed into understanding. I met her eyes in the mirror. Did Ethan tell you the money arrived? Her smile returned. That was all the confirmation I needed. My phone buzzed. Rachel's message contained 6 words. Funds secure, petition filed, he's locked out. From the ballroom, I heard Ethan tap a spoon against his glass. Ladies and gentlemen, he called, please join me in welcoming my beautiful wife. I folded the scarf, placed it in my purse, and walked into the room with my head uncovered. The room did not fall silent all at once. Conversation faded in layers. A few people nearest the entrance noticed me first, then turned, and the movement traveled across the ballroom. By the time I reached the center aisle, nearly every face was pointed in my direction. My mother stood near the back beside Rachel, one hand over her mouth. Ethan remained beneath the chandelier with a champagne glass in one hand and the microphone in the other. For half a second he looked terrified. Then the smile returned. "There she is," he said brightly. Claire decided to surprise us all with a bold new look. On the projection screen behind him, a photograph from our wedding appeared. I was 28, wearing my mother's veil, my hair pinned loosely at my neck. Ethan was looking at me as though I were the only person in the world. 10 years reduced to carefully selected images, none of which showed what happened after the camera was put away. Ethan extended his hand when I reached him. I did not take it. His smile tightened. "Before Claire says a few words," he continued, "I want to thank all of you for being here to celebrate a decade of partnership, sacrifice, and shared dreams." He thanked his parents, his employees, and his clients. He talked about marriage as an investment, about loyalty, and about building something that would outlast us. Then he announced that we were preparing to launch Bennett Legacy Partners, a private investment company that would transform our family's future. Several people applauded. Vanessa stood beside the stage, holding her glass at chest level. Her eyes never left mine. Ethan turned toward me. And none of this would be possible without my extraordinary wife. He offered me the microphone. "Claire?" I took it. The ballroom smelled of roses, champagne, and lemon polish. "When Ethan and I married 10 years ago," I began, "we promised to protect each other's dignity." My voice sounded calmer than I felt. "I believed that promise. I built my life around it." Ethan leaned toward me. "Claire, maybe we should save the personal stories for later." I stepped away. This morning I woke up without my hair. The room went still. Ethan laughed softly. "Like I said, a misunderstanding." I reached into my pocket and unfolded the note. This was on my pillow. I read his words exactly as he had written them. "Now you look just as ridiculous as the person you really are." No one laughed this time. Ethan's father lowered his glass. His mother stared at him as if she had never seen him before. Ethan reached for the microphone. "That was private." I pulled it back. "No, what happened to me was private. You made it evidence." His face darkened. The country club manager moved closer to the stage. Daniel, the investigator, rose near the exit. "I went to the hospital this morning," I continued. "Blood was drawn because I had consumed less than 2 glasses of champagne and lost consciousness. The results are still being processed, so I will not accuse anyone of something the evidence has not yet proven." "But the police have the glasses, the bottle, the clippers, and the note." A murmur passed through the room. Vanessa took one step backward. I turned toward the screen. Ethan also planned to announce tonight that $15 million from my grandmother's estate had been transferred into Bennett Legacy Partners. The screen changed. Rachel had replaced our anniversary photographs with corporate documents. My name appeared beside primary capital contributor. Vanessa's company sat above the controlling vote. "Ethan told me this was a family company," I said. "He did not tell me I would provide the money while Vanessa Cole controlled the entity that controlled it." Every head turned toward her. "This is a misrepresentation," Vanessa said. Rachel answered from the back. "The documents are public filings and executed drafts." Ethan's voice dropped. "Turn that off." I clicked to the next slide. The altered investment plan appeared. Business debts, an Arizona property, and Vanessa's brother's hotel project. Then came the email. Once she signs, she can't pull it back without exposing herself to the tax consequences. She'll panic before she fights. Vanessa's reply followed beneath it. "After the anniversary, we won't have to pretend anymore." Someone whispered, "Oh my God!" Vanessa moved toward the exit. Daniel stepped into the aisle. "You are free to leave," he said, "but preserve your phone and business records. Counsel will be contacting you." She stopped. Ethan lunged for the microphone, but the manager caught his arm. "Sir, step back." "This is my party," Ethan snapped. "No," I said. "It was my money." I faced the guests again. "Ethan told you tonight that we were transferring $15 million into our future. He was almost right." The next slide showed confirmation from the trust administrator. "The money is secured in a new trust. It will provide for my mother, protect my future, and fund a legal and career transition program for women leaving financially abusive relationships." My mother began to cry. "I am not giving away everything my grandmother built," I said. "I am preserving it the way she intended, but a significant portion will help women open bank accounts, hire attorneys, find housing, and return to work without asking permission from the person hurting them." Ethan stared at me. "You can't do that." "I already did." Rachel walked forward carrying a cream-colored envelope. "And because today is our anniversary," I said, "I did bring you a gift." She handed it to Ethan. His eyes moved over the first page. "Petition for dissolution of marriage." Beneath it were no